she doing? That could have been bad.
What's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about the Suzuki GSX-R1000 on-track review. This is going to be kind of a tough one for me to tackle because I'm so used to just being on the R6 and feeling comfortable. As we watched some of the video from last Sunday when I was on track with the Suzuki, you might hear it in my voice as I'm talking to some people. It's just the first time that I've had to be on different equipment and figure it out and kind of like start back from the beginning. I feel like I've made so much progress on the R6. That's probably where you're hearing some of the disappointment in my voice. Getting onto a Suzuki and trying to figure out a stock bike and ride it like I was riding the R6, which, I mean, they're completely different. The power is different. The way the bike handles is different. The R6 has traction dynamics front end with an Öhlins rear. The Suzuki's all stock, and I did get a baseline setup from Mark Built, which we'll talk about in a minute. So first and foremost, I just wanted to set this up so that we're going to watch some of the footage from Sunday, some of my first reactions and me getting on the bike, and then we'll be cutting back to me here, just so I can clear up some thoughts if there's a need for me to, you know, state something more clearly or whatever. So, you know, with the magic of green screen, we're able to hop back and forth here. So let's get started with my first session on the bike.
Out here at New Jersey Motorsports Park, testing out the GSX-R1000 for the first time on the Pirelli Diablo Super Corsa track day tires. Be doing a separate video on just the tire review. So mode set level B4 because that's what I rode on the street the most. So we're going to see how that feels for starters. Foot pegs feel a whole lot different from my R6. It's going to be definitely going to be interesting riding this on track. It feels a whole lot different. Going on here. You can immediately feel the difference in weight. Bar position, obviously not like my R6. And that's kind of throwing me off. For the moment, we're just worried about scrubbing in those tires. Suspension feels kind of wallowy. And there I am using the clutch. I'm screwing up the quick shifter, the auto blip. Just old habits die hard, you know? There we go, there's actually feel actually feel the traction control cutting in a little bit there. We're parking on apexes. Boy, does this feel slow. I really don't like the tank at all. And this stock Master has a lot of take-up, which I don't really like. Tell you what, the first impressions are that all the power in the world isn't any good on a chassis that doesn't give you any confidence. I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it's just really tough coming from a bike I know so well on one I know hardly at all. Oh, I can't even get my knee down.
Say your video.
It's definitely not the R6.
Yeah. You having fun?
It's a learning curve.
Yeah.
It's so different. I felt so slow on it. I really hate the tank.
I gotta go out.
Yeah, all right.
So obviously that felt pretty slow to me. I'm on a brand new bike with bone stock suspension. I'm on new tires, the Pirelli track day tires, which needed to be scrubbed in. So that entire first session was basically just scrubbing in tires. But after that 9 o'clock session, I went right over to Mark Built. And if you're not familiar, Mark is set up, he has a shop right down the street from New Jersey Motorsports Park. And virtually every track that I have ever been to, he does his sales pitch in the beginning of the riders meeting to let everybody know that he's there. And I've never really needed Mark's services just because since I built my R6, I've had my suspension guy, Mike at MDM, with a fresh setup at the beginning of every year. And Mike sets up my bike, it performs amazingly. So I haven't needed anybody else to touch it. But with this bike, obviously Mike wasn't there. I wasn't going to spend the money up front to get all new suspension. So this was the perfect opportunity for me to see firsthand what Mark is able to do on a factory bike. And I gotta say, holy crap, am I impressed. The bike felt completely different after the 9 o'clock session when Mark did a couple baseline setups. He did want me to come back and see where the indicator on the fork was. They just put a zip tie to see, how far the forks dive under braking. I just told him, I have about an inch left to go, and he said that's fine. And that was the setup for the rest of the day. But if you're ever doing a track day at New Jersey and you're on a bike that hasn't been touched by anybody else and you're wondering how much better can it be, go talk to Mark and see if he can set something up for you. Because that made all the difference in the world going into the 10 o'clock session.
Oh, that feels a lot better. Way off the apex there. These tires are coming in really great now after, I think I did 4 laps in that first session. It was a little bit shorter. Definitely use some stomp grip on my tank. Oh, dragged my boot. See, I'm trying to get my toe on the edge of the peg, but that puts my foot that much closer to the ground. And it's tough to hang back in situations like this, where normally I'd be able to get around people. But I gotta learn this bike. I really gotta learn the bike first before I start making moves like that. But that's just called being careful, I guess. I feel like I'm that guy on the 1000 now. Parking in turn 1. See, I'm pussyfooting around this corner because I don't want to brake too hard into 9. Oh. Oh. Fucking toes keep sliding. That felt a hell of a lot better than the first session, but that's to be expected. So this is the 3rd session. I don't know if anybody has a lap timer, but I'll run this just in case. And this front brake works a lot better than I anticipated, actually, which is a good thing. Because that was something that I wasn't initially too impressed with picking this up from the dealership. Oh, okay, braking. It's definitely starting to feel a little more like my R6, just with gobs of extra power. One downshift. There's Gus. They're saying something. I'm on a 1000 and I still can't keep up with Gus. Kid's fast, man. For some reason, I'm having a hard time remembering what gear I'm coming into 1. I think 3rd. And I stay in 3rd through the chicane. See, these are things that I just don't even think about. They're telepathic on the R6. What I'm finding to be the limiting factor today is still the controls. They're not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely taking some adjustment. I'm having to bring my feet in on the pegs so that I don't drag my toes. I usually articulate my foot on the edge of the foot peg. So right now I'm sitting, trying to get some GoPro on the swing arm. I'll show you how different it is from what I'm used to. There's nowhere to hang my knee on the tank, and that's driving me nuts too.
All right, so I actually ran the lap timer that 3rd session. We're gonna take a look at the times. The best was a 139 on lap 6. 5 was a 44.1. I think I had some traffic. That was that incident that I saw. 4 was a 39 as well. 3 So having run 39, to give you a basis for comparison, a reference, on the R6, my best time on this, on slicks, is at 32. And that was one time at the end of last year. So that's my fastest all time, and I can usually manage 34s, 35s pretty comfortably on the R6. So we're getting kind of close to my comfort zone on the R6, which feels good. Like I was saying, that the biggest limiting factors that I'm feeling right now are kind of like the ergonomics with the bars and the foot pegs, having to modify where I position my feet. Because this foot peg here sticks out a little farther and has that little upsweep. Normally I would position my foot here, but you see how far out from the bike that gets my foot going. So I've actually had to bring it back in. I'm sort of putting the inside of my boot up against the base plate of the foot peg. Now, when you compare that to what I'm used to on the R6, see how much shorter they are. So when I corner on the R6, I can really get my foot planted on the edge of that foot peg. So those are the biggest things that I'm dealing with right now, but we're going to keep on moving on through the day and hopefully drop a few more seconds off. But again, I'm not too desperate for lap times. I'm just trying to learn the bike as it is. So as you can see, what I end up talking about a lot throughout the day is ergonomics and the differences between my R6 and my GSX-R. And I get that it's kind of an unfair comparison because I have Vortex rear sets, Woodcraft clip-ons, and I have suspension on the R6 like I mentioned before. And this is just stock suspension with a baseline setup on the GSX-R. So it goes without saying that that stuff would be changed, but those were the kinds of things that I struggled with mostly, I feel. So I guess at a certain point my realization was getting back onto the R6 that well, let me backtrack for a second here. The original plan was to buy the GSX-R and sell the R6, but it was right around the time that I did my first Moto Gladiator race with the R6 out at Pit Race, and you can watch that video here if you want. I'll link in the description below to a couple of different videos that I referenced. And I didn't know how much I would like it. Turns out I liked it a lot. I was kind of taking a look at getting into CCS, and that's just not something that I want to do if I keep the GSX-R. I don't want to start racing on a 1000. It's a new bike to learn. There's a lot of stuff that I have to set up and change, and there's a lot more going on at a CCS weekend than there is at a regular track day or even a Moto Gladiator race. So as I'm trying to kind of like dip my toes into racing and get familiarized with that process, I just don't necessarily want to get into racing starting on a 1000. I'd like to stay on an R6, whether it's my current R6 or if I upgrade it to a newer one, because like most of you guys probably know, 75% of the parts are interchangeable between my 09 and a new 17 and up R6. So the original plan was to sell the R6, but now I'm second guessing that. And so as of this video right now, the GSX-R is actually for sale. But if it doesn't sell by the end of the summer, what I may end up doing is parting out the R6 and continuing on with this build on the GSX-R, because, you know, a lot of people that I talked to throughout the day, they were under the impression that I didn't like the bike. I mean, maybe it just sounded like that. I do really like it, don't get me wrong. It's just going to be an issue of, you know, I don't have enough money to do both, unfortunately. So it's going to have to be one or the other. I have some projects around the house that I have to get going on if I want to get ahead here. So, you know, maybe you can relate to this. It's just, you know, I don't have all the money for all the things all the time. So it's going to be a compromise. At this point, I still have no idea what I'm doing, whether I'm going to sell the bike or whether I'm going to keep the bike. It's all going to depend on if somebody's interested in it and they want to scoop it up, or if I end up stuck with it until the fall. That's still not a big problem. I do kind of enjoy riding it on the street when I get a nice day without a lot of traffic. You know, if that's the case, then I'll keep it and build it for next year. But overall, maybe just to cap this off, I do really like the GSX-R, but it's just going to continue to take some getting used to. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this first review. If you like this video, give it a like. Consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every Friday. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And what I'll do is I'll leave you with a couple laps. You know, I'll try and find that 39 here, and then after that, I will leave you with a couple of laps from the 2 o'clock session where I ran with Joe Limandri, and he embarrassed me. So, also, Joe had a bad crash last week at Summit, broke his arm. If you guys are watching this, if you know who he is, if you don't know who he is, go give him a follow on Instagram at Joe Limandri Racer, and you know, send him well wishes. I hope he recovers by the end of the summer and he can continue racing in Moto America Juniors Cup. So I will catch you guys on the next one.
That's pretty fast. Tell you what, so far I'm not really not that tired riding this bike. And you would have thought it would wear me out a lot more with the extra weight, but the flickability, I know a lot of people say that on first reviews, and that's why I didn't want to comment too much on it on the street review, but I feel like I've earned the ability to comment on it now. Stopped. Oh, Joe! Are you kidding me, man? There he goes again. Ladies and gentlemen, watch the expert, watch the master. Oh my God, I love riding with this kid.